A24's take on Scream just got an R rating and a release date. Let's get into it.
What's your favorite scary movie? Name it.
We'll tear your soul apart.
Well, I'm Pennywise the dancing now.
Oh, blood on the beat!
God, don't do that.
But sometimes dead is better.
Hey everybody, what's up? Killjoy Jake here, and instead of having friends, I have horror movies. Today we have a big update on Bodies, 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 what has been described as A24's take on Scream. We're gonna get into this big update in just a second here, but first I'm gonna need y'all to like this video and subscribe if you're new here. I do updates on a bunch of weird horror movies that I'm sure you will enjoy. So getting into this, first of all, we got a release date a couple days ago for Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. I'm just gonna keep saying that because it's fun. Any words you say 3 times is typically fun. Bodies, bodies, bodies. Dildo, dildo, dildo. It's fun. You just try it out. It's hilarious. But Bodies, Bodies, Bodies will be coming out on, or BBB, as I'm going to shorten it down to, on August 5th of this year. So we're not getting it we don't have to wait too long. Like, this thing's coming out relatively soon. If you're in the need, if you're needing some kind of A24 horror in your life, though, a new film from Alex Garland comes out this May called Men. And I'm sure you've probably seen the trailer that just came out recently. Have not done a video on that yet. Maybe soon. But I'm very excited for that one as well. But Bodies, 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 BBB, comes out August 5th, 2022, and also has just been recently rated R for violence, bloody images, drug use, sexual references, and pervasive language. That last one being the worst of all those, of course. But we don't like naughty language in here. We won't tolerate the fuck out of that. I'm very excited for this slasher film. It's been described as A24's take on Scream, and it is kind of like that murder mystery aspect. Now, the plot description of it reads, when a group of rich 20-somethings plan a hurricane party, which, if you don't know what a hurricane party is, I had to look this up myself. It's something that's most commonly done by people who live on the East Coast in Hurricane Alley, specifically Florida, who will hunker down, have a party, get trashed out of their minds while there's a hurricane going on. So they're trapped there. A great plot device for a slasher film to use so that your main characters can't leave while a bunch of murders are happening, or to be able to call the police. That's going to make for a really interesting slasher. I love this basic concept here. To continue this, when a group of rich 20-somethings plan a hurricane party at a remote family mansion, a party game turns deadly in this fresh and funny look at backstabbing, fake friends, and one party gone very, very wrong. Now, Megan Navarro, who is part of the Bloody Disgusting crew of writers, she does reviews on things, she writes articles. I really do trust her opinion on movies. I typically agree with her whenever she puts something out, and it's always really well done. I love all of her reviews. She said specifically in her review for this film, says, using a familiar social deduction game to implode an influence group of fake friends in the most heinous way makes for a dementedly fun time that's just as mean-spirited with the horror as it is the comedy. Now, to comment on that a little bit, I'm going to be completely transparent with you all. I had to look up what a social deduction game was, and it's something I'm actually super familiar with because me and my friends used to play Secret Hitler all the time, if you guys have ever heard of that. I'm not going to go through what Secret Hitler is, but you're basically like the survivors and the killers. And this is a great way to kind of comment on the situation while also playing this game. I think that's really interesting. Our characters play that, and I guess that's kind of where the action starts to happen. Maybe someone is picked to be the killer. Maybe they're not playing Secret Hitler, or maybe Werewolf, if you've ever heard of that. It's the same concept. You're either playing as the good guys or the bad guys. Good guys got to find out who the bad guys are, essentially. It's all the same. If you've ever played a game like that, that's essentially what they're playing in this game, and I guess that leads into the action. That's when the murders start happening, when they start doing this, and maybe someone gets a little upsetty spaghetti because they were picked as the killer. Something along those lines. There's obviously some other motives here, like she even says in her review that this is a group of fake friends. So there's some backstabbing already happening. Not literally, but not up until this point. But yeah, then it turns into a very mean-spirited movie with the horror and the comedy. Now, this is something I specifically want to comment on. I like some mean-spirited horror. Okay, that works for me every day of the week. But mean-spirited comedy is very, very hit or miss. Like a big miss with me sometimes. Most of the time misses. What I'm talking about here is when comedy is too mean-spirited, it can come off as kind of like too over the top and too like drama fueled. And that's just not really really for me. There is a crowd for that out there, but it's not really something I look for in movies. It's not something I typically find super funny. And a big example of this is anything with like Joss Whedon, like any of his movies, his comedy. I just don't care for that. It's always like some kind of like random quip after someone says something, and it's something always super negative and punching down. Like someone will say something like, "Uh-oh, here he comes," and it's like, yeah, no duh, idiot. I don't find that kind of humor funny at all. Like it's so cheap. It's so easy to write. It's nothing that's like super different or interesting. It just makes for crappy characters who are all negative and mean-spirited. I think there is a way to do mean-spirited comedy correctly. I think actually the best example of this is a very similar film to what this is going to be. The Slumber Party Massacre remake from 2021 does mean-spirited comedy pretty well. When it's not too much and you just sprinkle it in here and there, it can be funny. But when every single character has some kind of backlash comment to whatever you just said, it gets really annoying real fast. So I hope that's not the case here. Something I also wanted to talk about was how many rewrites there was with the script, which makes me worried that maybe A24 or like some kind of producers there saw the script for this after buying it and were like, oh, we don't love the comedy aspect of it. Like maybe it's a little too mean-spirited. They actually had to hire a bunch of writers, one of them being Chloe Okuno from VHS 94. She did the Ratma skit. If you saw that movie, absolutely love her. I will literally watch anything she touches or makes because, oh my God, that skit in VHS 94 was super impressive. She has a new film called Watcher coming out as well. Side tangent over, let's get back to Bodies. But I guess she helped rewrite the script with a handful of other writers, which always screams disaster for literally any movie. So I am a little worried. I mean, listen, I love Chloe Okuno, and I'm sure these other writers are good writers. But whenever you have too many cooks in the kitchen, it ruins the pot, as they like to say. That was not at all how the expression goes, but I think you get what I'm trying to say here. So I really hope that's not the case here. I hope there's not too many ideas that all end up being underdeveloped, because that's typically what happens when you have like 6 or 7 writers on one project. You have a bunch of different ideas, everyone wants to take it in one direction or the other, and everything kind of feels underdeveloped. I hope that's not the case here. Hopefully we have a few congruent ideas that all kind of stick together and all mesh to make some kind of crazy fun slasher flick. This is A24, of course, so it's not going to be just your simple run-of-the-mill slasher movie where it's just a bunch of people getting murdered. You have a final girl who does a little final girl lap and then ultimately takes out the killer. I don't think it's going to be the case here. This is going to be a little more than that, kind of similar to A24's most recent entry, X, which was, yes, at face value, kind of just a typical slasher flick with a very, very different slasher killer at the head of it. But the movie is much more focused on a lot of social themes, like the human body, for instance, and sex. Those were kind of the two things that it really tried to focus on, your youth and losing that with all the different seasons of life, and also just straight up sex is a big theme in that movie. If you've seen it, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I would love for more slasher films to be like that. Have some kind of commentary that's not super in your face, but something that's almost more implied than something that is something so shoved down your throat the entire time. That's what I think X did really well, especially with the character development, the kills. It didn't forget to be a slasher either, man. Some of those kills were gnarly. Oh, super disturbing. Some of them were even really slow and painful is how I feel about them. So I would like to see that once again in Bodies, and Men also coming out later this year. So I'm very excited for both of the new A24 horror entries from this year. But what do you guys think? Are you excited for Bodies? Are you excited to see this thing in early August? How do you feel about it? Even with all the rewrites and all kind of the weird production stuff that was going on with it. It does have an amazing cast. So For right now, I am super pumped for the film. But what do you guys think? Leave me something about it in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching this new video on Bodies. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more horror content. Who do you think is going to be the killer in Bodies too? I'd like to know that. Leave that in the comments as well. If you want to see this channel grow, by the way, please consider supporting me on Patreon. The link for that will be in the description below. And as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.